Hello, and welcome along to this next in the series of videos that's all about the chocolatey quick deployment environment, QDE. So in the previous videos, we have walked through the process of downloading the virtual appliance image and then getting it loaded into my hypervisor that I'm running on this machine, which is VMware Fusion. Having done that, we then looked at loading in a chocolatey license file so that we can enable all of the different functionality of the Chocolate for Business components that's installed on the QDE environment, as well as creating a chocolate license package that we can then use to install on the client machines that we configure to check into CCM, which is the Chocolate Central Management components. We had a quick look at Chocolate Central Management, and then we also had a look through the Nexus repositories that we have set up and configured on QDE, so basically what we've done is we've looked at the most recently, or the most downloaded packages on chocolate.org, and we've used Package Internalizer to download and internalize all of those application installers and make them available within the Nexus repositories that we have available to us. Now, what we then want to have a look at, and this is what the topic of this video is have a look at Jenkins. So Jenkins, for those of you that are not familiar with it, is a CI/CD platform. Now, Jenkins is typically used when you are compiling software. So you may run a compilation step, you may run some unit tests, and then ultimately you might package up that software to publish somewhere. Now, you might wonder then, why are we using Jenkins within QDE? One of the things that Jenkins is really, really good at is automating and scheduling a set of tasks. Now, what we want to be able to do within our QDE environment is we want to be able to look at the packages that we have installed on our local repository, and we want to check to see if they're outdated. So we want to look at the community repository, and we want to check to see if there's any new versions out there. And if there are, we want to run Package Internalizer to download those packages, then download the installers for them, and then make them available on our internal repositories for consumption. Now, the reason that we want to do that is because as an organization, we don't recommend that organizations take a direct dependency on the community repository. But by using something like this, Jenkins, that automated process to check to see if there's a new version, we do one download of the package, we internalize all of the installers, and then we put it into our internal environment. Then it will work in every time that one of our clients attempts to install it, it will always work. So it's the most resilient way of having a package. So what I want to do is I want to look at this URL here, which is Jenkins. Now, unfortunately, in this version of QDE, there is a slight issue. And that slight issue is that when we installed and we set up Nexus flipped a switch that basically said that, so it's called HSTS. So it basically flipped a switch within Chrome, within the browser, that says that any URL that's coming from the domain name of Choco server, everything should be running on HTTPS. Now, the way that we've set up Jenkins on this machine is that it's not running on HTTPS. It's running just on a bare URL. Now, unfortunately, what that means is that every time you try and access the bare URL, which is http:// choco server 8080, which is what Jenkins is running on, is it gets promoted to be an HTTPS address. And as a result, it doesn't work. So we've got a little bit of work that we need to do to change this in this version of QDE, bearing in mind that that will be fixed in a new version of QDE. So what we need to look at is we need to look at the C program data, Sonatype, work, Nexus, etc. folder. And I'll need to edit this nexus.properties file. And what I need to do here is I need to copy in a new setting, and that new setting is jetty.https.stsmaxage equals -1, and I need to save that file. So having saved that file, I'm going to go to the Nexus service and I'm going to restart it. So I'm going to let that restart, and then while that's happening, I'm going to go to a new tab in my Chrome window, and I'm going to go to Chrome : and I'm going to go to net internals, and I'm going to look at the HSTS setting. So what I need to do here is, because Nexus enabled that setting, Chrome basically remembers it. So it will then say that any URL that comes from Choco server has to be over HTTPS. So what I need to do is I need to go in here and I need to remove the domain security policy for Choco Server. So I can go ahead and click delete here. So having done that, for good measure, I am going to close the browser and I'm going to reopen my readme.html file that's on my desktop. So having done that, if I open up my Nexus repository, which is this one, so Nexus repository should still work as it did before. Now, the reason it's not is because I restarted the service. It does take a little bit to spin up, so I just refresh the page there, and there we have Nexus. So it's still being served over HTTPS as we expect it to. If we scroll down to where the Jenkins URL was, if I right click and open this now I get my sign in. Okay, so if I go back to my readme.html file, I'm going to grab the username and password for the default Jenkins user. And as a bare minimum, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to change that password. So once I'm logged in, I am going to look at the settings here. So it says by going to people in the sidebar, click on admin. So people on the sidebar is here, and here's my admin user. And what I'm going to want to do then is if I go back, click on configure in the sidebar, scroll down, and there's a password section. I'm going to click on configure, and there is a password section here. And I'm going to change that password to be something else. So I'm going to blank out what was there before, and I'm going to put in a new password, and I'm going to hit save. So that's logged me out, and now I should be able to log in with that new username and password. So that's the bare minimum that we suggest that you do in terms of running Jenkins or setting up Jenkins. But just to talk you through a couple of things here, these are the jobs that I mentioned before. So I'm not going to go through all of these just now because there's a little bit more that I want to talk through, but this was just a bare minimum in getting Jenkins set up. But what we do have here, and all of these jobs are disabled by default, is these are the jobs that we're going to run periodically to reach out to the Chocolatey community repository to check to see if there are any new packages available, and if there are, it will download them. It will put them into our Chocolatey test repository that I mentioned in a previous video, and then if everything works and everything happy, we can then promote the package from our test repository into our production repository, and that's what we'll do in a separate video. This was just about getting everything set up and running. So that's it for now. Join me in the next video where we'll start to look at the next section of QDE setup.